Nothing could have prepared me for my first week home with my newborn. Sometimes we have to shift our perspective on what is normal and what we expect our normal to be. I like to consider self-care as being proactive and coping skills as being reactive as an approach to dealing with stress. Hello and welcome to Mom's Way to Wellness. If you are a mom who feels lonely, unseen, and overwhelmed with the demands of motherhood, you are in the right place. I am your host, Ida Maravillas. I help overwhelmed moms transform their challenges into mental health and generational well-being as we talk about the struggles of motherhood, parenting, and mental health through a lens of faith. I offer resources and guidance to help you work through the challenges that are impacting your relationship with yourself and with others. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, today our topic is how self-care can help manage stress. In episode 3, I talked about the definition of mental health and our tendency to push aside the warning signs that our bodies give us when we're stressed. And living out what is considered to be good mental health means that we're able to cope with the normal stresses in life. Today, I want to talk about how becoming a mom opens us up to a new normal, new ways we experience stress, and how self-care can help us manage stress. I believe that normal is relative to what we experience because chances are we're likely to normalize what we experience. And when we become moms, we adjust. We adjust and adapt to a new normal. And just when we get used to the stage that we're in, our kids transition into a new stage, and then we have to adapt again. And then we go through this cycle again. This brings me back to my first week home as a new mom. I was dealing with a lot of changes in my life at that time. And even though I had been a babysitter for lots of kids in my family while I was growing up, nothing could have prepared me for my first week home with my newborn. My daughter cried so much, and we couldn't always figure out what she needed. I was not prepared for the true cost of breastfeeding. In fact, I want to take a moment to acknowledge how hard breastfeeding is and honor every mom listening who has been able to stick with it. I couldn't keep up with that. It cost me too much, and I describe that payment as sleep deprivation, stress, and tears. These were the changes that I needed to adapt to externally. I had to give of myself and use what little energy I had to meet someone else's needs, someone who needed me because she couldn't take care of herself. Some of the biggest challenges internally had to do with all the different ways my body was changing and healing. And one of the biggest changes I dealt with was feeling so lonely and isolated. I had been part of the receiving end of all of the excitement and anticipation of her arrival. And once she was here, we were left alone a lot, which I embraced a lot more the third time I became a mom. But in my early 20s, it was hard. I needed adult conversation. I needed to interact with others. I actually needed a lot that I didn't know how to express at that time. Looking back, now I consider all of the different ways I was stressed out during that time to be normal for the season I was in. In fact, when my second daughter was born, only 14 months later, I sat with a relative in my grandmother's bedroom while she slept. And I remember saying how my new daughter was such an easy baby. And my relative was so gentle in the way she shared a different perspective. She said to me, "No, Ida, it's that now you know." Experience was influencing the way I looked at both of my daughters. I was adapting to my new normal and how it felt to be a mom of two. I don't remember thinking that my second daughter didn't cry as much. I mean, I was still tired. I felt disappointed for not being able to keep up with breastfeeding again. My body had changed and was healing, and I still longed for conversations with adults, but I knew what to expect, so the stress wasn't as shocking. As a mom, stress is going to happen as we juggle the different needs within our families, and it can feel so overwhelming. And the things that stress us out will change as we transition from sleepless nights to unexpected diaper blowouts when you're headed out the door, to the tantrums of a toddler who has big feelings and very few words to express them, to potty training, to getting to school on time, the teenage years, and all of the transitions we will walk our kids through into their adulthood. So sometimes we have to shift our perspective on what is normal and what we expect our normal to be. We have to acknowledge the value of taking care of ourselves while tuning into what helps us cope with stress. Overall, mental health is about being able to function and cope in ways that are healthy when it comes to handling the stress that we start to expect as moms. I want to take a moment to talk about self-care here because self-care is a strategy that gives us the opportunity to build up a reserve of energy, nourishment, and what we need to be more flexible and resilient. I like to consider self-care as being proactive and coping skills as being reactive as an approach to dealing with stress. Self-care and coping strategies, they actually can look the same in terms of what we do, but a coping strategy is done to manage or reduce stress that has already been triggered. Coping strategies help us deal with stressful situations that we anticipate or end up finding ourselves in. I mean, some simple coping strategies can include practicing a breathing exercise, or going for a walk, or praying, or journaling, or talking with a friend. And those same types of activities can be integrated into our everyday lives before the stressful situations even happen. It will help us to feel better, to regain emotional regulation when we get upset, and to be able to feel more calm in how we carry ourselves into every part of our day, not just as a response to stress. And when we feel better because we've taken the time to care for ourselves, it's not that our circumstances will change all that much. It's that we will change how we approach our circumstances. I want to say that again. When we feel better because we've taken the time to care for ourselves, it's not that the circumstances will change. It's that we will change how we approach our circumstances. So what matters about incorporating self-care into our routines is that we are able to be proactive in taking care of ourselves, and we'll end up operating from a place of fullness rather than emptiness. We'll be less at risk for burnout and for depression and for anxiety and all these other things that come up with stress. It challenges us to find the things that are nourishing to us, and it's a good practice to model for our kids. They're watching us. They're watching everything that we do, even when we don't realize it. So as you consider how all of this applies to you, I challenge you to consider the season of motherhood you're currently in. And just do these 3 things. The first thing is name the stressors that are normal for the parenting challenges you're currently facing. Second, tune into how your body responds to stress. And third, think of the different ways that you can start to incorporate self-care into your daily routine. There is power in naming the things that trigger us because it helps us to understand ourselves better. There is wisdom in tuning into our body and realizing how much our stress levels are impacting us. And there is more peace when we give ourselves what we need. I wish I had done a better job at this when I was a younger mom, but I guess that's what happens with experience. We look back, we reflect, we realize what didn't work, and we share our experiences with the moms who come after us. We start to understand the things that are stressful to us as a mom, and it's the starting point to figure out how to manage, how we can do better, how we can teach our kids better, and how we can model what that better is. So, consider some of the ways that you can take care of yourself through an aspect of self-care, and find ways to develop the practices that will help you cope with the normal stresses of life for your current situation. If you're not sure where to start, I invite you to download a self-care planner that I created for busy moms to help you consider your approach to this practice. Just go to idamaravillas.com to sign up for the free resource. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Please subscribe and leave a review. This will help others find the show. If you would like to receive additional resources on motherhood and wellness, you can join my community by subscribing to my email list at idamaravillas.com. Remember, wellness is possible one step at a time.